The Herald this morning reports that senior New Zealand First Minister Shane Jones, well, he wants his party to consider renationalising the gentailers, the power companies. It's the front page of your... that's the arse end of your back page. This is the front page. He has written to Winston Peters outlining the dire state of our energy sector, and who better to discuss this with than our political panel for your Wednesday morning. David Seymour, the ACT leader, and Minister, and Chlöe Swarbrick, Green Party co-leader. Good morning, guys.
Hey.
Morning.
Good to see you both. David, first, what do you think of the idea? And it's not policy. It's just he's written to his leader, saying we should consider this. But he is a minister in the same cabinet you are. What do you reckon of the idea?
Well, first of all, he's responding to something that you can understand politicians would want to respond to. The gas supply in New Zealand has fallen off a cliff. The energy companies have stockpiled a huge mountain of coal to try and offset that. But in the meantime, you've seen prices get very high. And over the winter, people have really felt that. You hear people borrowing from relatives to pay the power bill. That's not where people want to be. So big tick for addressing the problem in my book. The second thing I would say is that fundamentally, if you want electricity to be cheaper, you need more generation of electricity. And if politicians go out and say, look, nice generator you got there, shame if a government happened to take control of it, then the signal that sends out is, look, maybe don't invest in electricity because you never know where it might end up with policy. And let's give you one tiny example of this. I was out at a farm a couple of weeks ago, talking to a guy who's got a whole lot of chickens. He could spend $200,000, put solar on his roof and save a lot of money, generate clean energy, be really, really helpful. But he said to me, look, I'm not doing it because I don't know what the policy of the next government will be. I don't know if I'm going to be somehow penalised for having invested this way, or I won't get a return, so I'm not doing it. And that's just one guy with a chicken
Chloe,
coop.
if you have any part in the next government, would a policy be something like what Shane's talking about?
I mean, definitely not as far as subsidising and incentivising fossil fuels in the mix. If we just can take a step back and look at the facts, gas production peaked in this country about 20 years ago and has been steadily declining for the last 10 years. That is years before the oil and gas ban came into effect. It also takes an average of 16 years to go from exploration to production. So even if a new gas well were found in 2018 when the ban came into effect, we would still be waiting for 10 years from this point right now for that new well to be producing new gas. On top of all of that, approximately half of all of the gas that's currently produced in this country is taken by a multinational company called Methanex, turned into methanol, exported as a cheap commodity offshore, and New Zealanders are paying them for that privilege at the tune of approximately $60 million a year through an insane policy known as free allocation, which the Greens have long been campaigning to end. So the future is renewable, Ryan, and I'd just like to extend the invitation to that farmer that David is talking about. The future is renewable and the Greens will back you to put those solar panels around your farm.
David, he said a few other things. I'm not sure he'll be taking your invitation, Chloe, but nice try.
Do you want to address this? Because we've got a problem for us. We're paying the electricity bills. We know how expensive it is. We know we had an energy crunch last year. We know we're probably going to have another one next winter. We are importing a whole bunch of coal. On one hand, David, you're saying, well, market can sort this out. We need them to invest in generation, etc. On the other hand, Chloe's saying, actually, we need less market operation in this, and we need the government incentives to stop for some of this allocation. So what are we to think of this? And do you not need to actually agree between both sides on a plan, any plan?
Well, I think one of the key things that people who want to invest are looking for is some certainty. Every time a government comes along and says, hey, we might build a big pumped hydro station, or hey, we might nationalise, or hey, we actually have an idea of net zero, so we're going to really clamp down on certain types of energy. Every time you do that, you have a big problem. And there's something that I think has been missed, is that because solar and because wind are variable, people want reliability. So as a result, the more of that you have, the more you need the gas or coal to run when it doesn't run. So funnily enough, you actually need more of the thermal stuff to counterbalance the other stuff. So you need both. And I just take the view you need a marketplace where people can make decisions and know that in 10 years' time, the rules won't have radically changed so that they can actually earn back what they invested. We do that, we're going to be okay. The more you politicise it, the harder it is.
Chloe, would you be open, well, both of you, would you be open to forming some sort of cross-party group to look at energy?
If I can be clear, our energy spokesperson, Scott Willis, has actually been really trying to make this happen. And in fact, he has a members bill which would split up the gentailers and their retail arm to stop the kind of, for lack of a better term, insider trading that's currently happening. Funnily enough, in the proposal
sorry, just a second.
Shane Jones has put in front of his leader.
All of the people on the boards and management of 4 of the biggest companies in New Zealand of committing a crime.
You're talking about sweetheart deals for their own retail arms.
Yes, I am. And again, David, let's not jump to extremes. Let's just engage in the real things that I'm saying right now.
You did say insider trading.
You know, insider trading is a very serious crime. People go to jail for that, Chloe. I mean, if you don't know that, you shouldn't be maybe in the position you're in.
Okay, David. Again, the point that I'm making here, yep, let's call it sweetheart deals then. But what we know is that for all intents and purposes, we are seeing far cheaper prices being given to the retail arm of those gentailers than to other retailers that are out there. So we need to break that up. And funnily enough, that is one of the proposals that Shane Jones put in his letter to Winston Peters. But he made the point that he wouldn't be supporting the Green Party's bill because he felt a sense of loyalty to the current government. So unfortunately, this is the state of play at the moment.
Right.
It doesn't matter where, or rather it does seem to matter where good ideas are coming from, because if they're coming from the opposition, the government's simply not interested.
In short, we're not going to see kumbaya on this anytime soon.
Well, I mean,
let's move on.
We'd invite the government to get on with the energy strategy,
we're going to move on
which
to
has been delaying time and time
wages
again.
and inflation. Bigger issue actually for Kiwis at the moment. We've seen a report that the post-COVID recession, which was engineered by the Reserve Bank, has pushed our wage growth to near the bottom of the world in recent years. That was part of the problem. We also had this idea that maybe you give the Reserve Bank more wriggle room, that you move the goalposts on inflation. Chloe, what's your view on that?
Honestly, not really all too interested in spending much time on that red herring. And I just make the point that all that Barbara Edmonds was saying from all of the reporting that I've seen is that maybe we should entertain the debate that's currently coming from bank economists. Unfortunately, that's been jumped on by members of the government and used to kind of attack her as opposed to again, having a constructive debate around economics.
Yeah, fair enough. But you're not.
What's your view, though?
Yeah. Well,
keep it as is, and let's focus on fiscal policy, which is the things that government can actually do, because monetary policy is a blunt instrument and it creates what's called distributional impacts, that is inequalities.
And you move
it is the role of government to deal with those inequalities.
Yeah, I think you're right. And you move the goalposts and then they end up overshooting those anyway. So is it a smart thing to do, David?
Well, we need to fix what actually matters. Now, you can change the monetary policy if you like, but at the end of the day, money is just a way of storing your value and exchanging with other people for what you need. Means of exchange, a store of value. The sooner you start messing around with it, and you get enormous amounts of inflation, which has really hurt New Zealand households, then you're just barking up the wrong tree. The real question you asked is about wage growth. That's been far too slow for far too long. And as a result, people are poorer than they need to be. And that's why you need more investment. That's why you need to champion success in business. You need to get rid of red tape and regulation so New Zealanders actually have a shot at building businesses and jobs that pay more. It's that simple.
Appreciate that, David.
That's why the government's cutting all of this investment in 15,000 construction sector jobs.
David Seymour, ACT leader, and Chlöe Swarbrick, Greens Party co-leader. Thanks so much for being with us this